I'm Ruby, 35, and literally this morning, my rep as the heart of Monroe Systems? Yeah, it totally backfired. The company I poured my soul into building, it blew up into a full-on family betrayal at our boardroom in downtown Chicago. My sister Claire straight up demanded I step aside, and when I pushed back, the room went dead silent. "You're not fit to lead us," she yelled, with every board member staring like I'd just crashed their fancy gala. But here's the tea. Their shade didn't break me, it lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. A quick note. This story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Brim Revenge. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now, back to the story. I walked into Monroe Systems at 8:47 a.m., my heels clicking on the polished marble, briefcase swinging with the weight of a presentation I'd spent weeks perfecting. The boardroom smelled like coffee and ambition, but something felt off. My family, Claire, Mom, Uncle Dan, sat at the long glass table, their faces tight, avoiding my eyes. I brushed it off, chalking it up to nerves about the merger vote. I was interim CEO after all, the one who dragged our tech firm from a garage startup to a $50 million valuation. I adjusted my blazer, ready to lead. Claire tapped her pen, a sharp, deliberate rhythm. "Ruby," she said, voice like ice, "we need to talk." My stomach twisted. This wasn't the usual pre-meeting chatter. I set my briefcase down, fingers lingering on the handle, and forced a smile. "Sure, what's up?" The room held its breath. Claire stood, her tailored suit screaming power, and slid a folder toward me. "The board's made a decision. You're out." My heart stopped. Out? I scanned the faces, Mom's eyes on the floor, Uncle Dan's jaw clenched, the other board members shifting like they'd rather be anywhere else. "What do you mean, out?" I asked, voice cracking. Claire's lips curled, not quite a smirk. "You're not CEO material, Ruby. We voted, I'm taking over." I gripped the table, knuckles whitening. This was my company, my vision. I'd coded our first prototype at 22, skipped vacations, poured my savings into it, and now my own family? They were stripping it away. I opened the folder, hands shaking, and saw the resolution, signed, sealed, final. "This is a mistake," I whispered, but Claire just leaned back, triumphant. The sting of Claire's words lingered as I stood frozen in the boardroom, the folder's edges crumpling under my grip. My mind reeled back to years of being invisible in my family, their dismissal of my grind a constant bruise. Growing up, I was the odd one out, the kid tinkering with computers while Claire charmed everyone with her perfect grades and pageant smiles. I'd come home from coding camp, buzzing about my first program, only to find Mom fawning over Claire's debate trophy. "That's nice, Ruby," she'd say, barely glancing up, "but look at Claire's award." At 16, I built a database for Dad's small business, saving him hours. He patted my shoulder, said, "Good job," then spent dinner praising Claire's valedictorian speech. Uncle Dan once laughed off my pitch for a tech upgrade, saying, "Stick to your toys, kid." Meanwhile, Claire's summer internship at a law firm, they threw a party. I'd swallow the hurt, telling myself my work would speak for itself someday. By 25, I'd co-founded Monroe Systems with Dad, pouring nights into coding while Claire partied through grad school. When we hit our first $1 million in revenue, I expected a nod, maybe pride. Instead, Mom threw a gala for Claire's engagement, barely mentioning my milestone. "You're too focused on that company," she'd sigh, as if my ambition was a flaw. Claire, radiant in her designer dress, would flash a pitying smile. "Not everyone's cut out for the spotlight, Ruby." Now, in the boardroom, those memories burned. I looked at Mom, hoping for a flicker of defense. She fidgeted with her bracelet, eyes down. Uncle Dan cleared his throat, muttering about strategic shifts. I wanted to scream. Didn't they see what I'd built? My sacrifices? The late nights, the missed birthdays, the loans I'd personally guaranteed? But their silence said it all. I'd always been the shadow, the one they could erase. I straightened, forcing my voice steady. "You're wrong about me," I said, meeting Claire's gaze. She tilted her head, like I was a puzzle she'd already solved. The board members shifted, papers rustling, no one meeting my eyes. I clutched the folder tighter, its sharp edge biting my palm. This wasn't just a vote, it was a verdict on my worth. And yet deep down, a spark flickered. Not defeat, but defiance. They thought they could bury me, but I'd clawed my way up before. I'd do it again. The boardroom's silence pressed against me, but my mind escaped to the nights when Monroe Systems was born, my secret triumph, built in the shadows of their doubt. At 22, I'd sit cross-legged on my apartment floor, laptop burning my thighs, coding the first prototype for our AI-driven logistics platform. Dad believed in me then, his eyes bright as we sketched ideas on napkins. But the real grind? That was mine alone. While Claire partied, I wrestled with bugs, my screen's glow my only company. I'd mutter, just one more line until dawn broke, my fingers cramped, my coffee cold. The aha came at 3 a.m. one February, snow piling outside. I cracked the algorithm that made our system revolutionary, real-time supply chain optimization, saving clients millions. I punched the air, heart racing, but didn't call anyone. Who'd care? Mom would have said that's nice but don't overwork. Claire would have rolled her eyes. So I kept it close, start my pride, a quiet fire. By 27, we'd signed our first major client. By 30, we were a name in tech. I'd present at conferences, my voice steady despite the imposter syndrome clawing at me, while my family barely noticed. Ruby's just doing her thing, they'd say, as if my thing wasn't rewriting industry standards. Now, gripping that cursed folder, I felt that fire flare again. They could take the title, but not the truth. I'd built this. Every line of code, every sleepless night, every pitch I nailed, that was mine. Claire's smug face blurred as I remembered the client who'd shaken my hand last month, saying, "You're changing the game, Ruby." Not Claire, not Mom. Me. I set the folder down, fingers steady now. "You're making a mistake," I said softly, locking eyes with Claire. Her brow twitched like she sensed the shift. I wasn't just their overlooked sister anymore. I was the one who'd carried Monroe Systems to this moment. They could rewrite the org chart, but they couldn't erase my work. That spark in me? It was growing, ready to burn through their betrayal. The boardroom's weight clung to me as I left, my heels echoing in the empty hall. But my mind was already on tomorrow's board meeting, my last shot to secure a game-changing merger. I stepped into the elevator, its hum a brief reprieve, and checked my phone. 6:47 p.m. I had to prep, but first I faced the annual family dinner at Mom's house tonight. My stomach knotted. These dinners were a minefield. Claire's smug anecdotes, Mom's subtle digs, Uncle Dan's lectures about real leadership. I'd rather debug code in a blackout than sit through their judgment. Back at my apartment, I tossed my keys on the counter, the clink sharp in the quiet. My pitch deck for the merger sat open on my laptop, slides glowing with data I'd triple-checked. This deal with Apex Logistics could push Monroe Systems past $100 million in valuation. I'd spent months wooing them, my voice hoarse from calls, my inbox a war zone of revisions. But tonight, I had to play nice, smile through the barbs, and pretend I wasn't dreading Claire's inevitable toast to her own brilliance. I pulled on a navy dress, fingers fumbling with the zipper as I braced for the evening. In the mirror, my eyes looked tired but sharp, like I was gearing up for battle. I thought of Dad, how he'd grin at my tenacity before he passed. "You're our spark, Ruby," he'd said. Now I felt like a spark about to be snuffed out. Claire's words from the boardroom echoed. Not CEO material. I gripped the sink, knuckles pale, and whispered, "You're wrong." Grabbing my purse, I headed out, the city's lights blurring past my cab window. Mom's house loomed ahead, all warm glow and fake harmony. I smoothed my dress, took a breath, and stepped out, my heart thudding like a drum. Whatever tonight brought, I'd face it. But deep down I knew the real fight was waiting in that boardroom tomorrow. The scent of rosemary and roasted lamb hit me as I stepped into Mom's dining room, the chandelier casting a soft glow over the table set for war. Claire sat at the head, her wineglass catching the light, while Mom fussed with napkins and Uncle Dan scrolled his phone. I forced a smile, my purse strap digging into my shoulder as I took my seat. "Ruby, you made it," Claire said, her tone sweet but sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. "Thought you'd be too busy with whatever you do." The table chuckled and I gripped my fork, its cold metal grounding me. Mom passed the potatoes, her eyes flicking to me. "You look tired, dear. Working too hard again?" Her concern felt like a jab. I mumbled something about deadlines, but Claire cut in. "Oh, Ruby's always grinding away in her little tech world. Must be exhausting, carrying all that ambition." Her smile was all teeth, and Uncle Dan snorted, muttering, "Ambition's fine, but results matter." I stabbed a piece of lamb, my jaw tight. Every word was a calculated prod, their voices weaving a familiar net of condescension. "How's the merger going?" Mom asked, her tone implying I'd fumble it. I straightened, ready to share the Apex deal's potential, but Claire waved a hand. "Let's not bore everyone with shop talk. I've got news." Her eyes gleamed, and I felt the room tilt, like I was bracing for a blow I couldn't see. Dinner dragged, each bite tasteless as their backhanded compliments piled up. "Ruby's so dedicated," Mom sighed, "but Claire's got that natural leadership." I swallowed hard, my fingers twisting the napkin in my lap. They didn't know about the sleepless nights, the deals I'd closed, the clients who trusted me. To them, I was still the awkward kid with a laptop, not the woman who'd built Monroe Systems. But as Claire raised her glass, smirking, I felt that spark in me flare. Quiet, but ready to ignite. Claire's wineglass glinted as she stood, her smile a polished weapon, and the dining room fell silent, forks pausing mid-air. "I have an announcement," she said, voice smooth but commanding like she'd rehearsed this moment. My stomach churned, the lamb sitting heavy. Mom leaned forward, eyes bright with pride, while Uncle Dan set his phone down, nodding like he already knew. I gripped my napkin, fingers twisting the fabric into knots, bracing for whatever she'd throw next. "Monroe Systems needs a visionary," Claire continued, her gaze sliding to me, sharp and deliberate. "The board has chosen me as the new CEO, effective immediately." The words hit like a slap, my breath catching in my throat. CEO? My role, my work, my company, stolen in front of Mom's crystal candlesticks. The room spun, faces blurred. Mom clapped softly, murmuring, "Perfect choice." Uncle Dan grunted approval while the cousins at the table exchanged glances, avoiding mine. I pushed my chair back, the scrape loud in the quiet. "You can't do this," I said, voice low but shaking. Claire raised an eyebrow unfazed. "It's done, Ruby. The board voted. You're out." Her words were final, a guillotine dropping. I looked to Mom, desperate for a shred of support, but she fussed with her earrings, lips pursed. "It's for the best, dear," she said, not meeting my eyes. The betrayal burned, raw and deep, like a wound I hadn't seen coming. I stood, legs unsteady, my hands clenching into fists. "I built this company," I said, louder now, my voice cutting through their smug silence. Claire tilted her head, her smile pitying. "You tried, Ruby, but it's time for real leadership." The room watched, no one speaking, no one defending me. I felt stripped bare, my life's work reduced to a footnote in Claire's coronation. But as I grabbed my purse, that spark in me flickered. Small, stubborn, refusing to die. I stumbled out of Mom's house, the night air biting my cheeks as I fumbled for my phone, my hands trembling with rage and humiliation. The street was quiet, just the hum of distant traffic, but my pulse roared. I slid into my car, slamming the door when my phone buzzed, a text from Lena, my old colleague from Monroe's early days. "Check your email, now, you need to see this." My heart skipped, fingers clumsy as I opened the app. Attached was a scanned note, handwritten cryptic. "Ruby, the vote wasn't clean. Look at the 2023 filings, page 17. I froze, the screen's glow harsh against the dark. A dirty vote? My ousting, Claire's crown. It wasn't just betrayal, it might be fraud. I drove home, knuckles white on the wheel, and yanked open my laptop. The 2023 filings were buried in our shared drive, password protected. I typed my old admin code, half expecting it to fail, but it worked. Page 17 stared back, a board resolution dated 6 months ago, approving Claire's appointment. My name wasn't even mentioned, but the signatures, Mom's, Uncle Dan's, 2 others looked off, too uniform like they'd been traced. I leaned back, breath shallow, my coffee mug cold on the desk. This wasn't sloppy, it was deliberate. They'd planned this while I was drowning in the Apex merger, distracted by Dad's anniversary last year, when grief had me skipping board calls. Lena's note burned in my mind. She'd left Monroe after a clash with Claire, but we'd stayed close. I texted her, "Meet me tomorrow, bring everything." Her reply was instant, "I got you, Ruby." I rubbed my eyes, the weight of their betrayal sinking deeper. But that spark in me flared brighter, fueled by the hint of truth. They thought they'd buried me, but this note, it was a shovel. I'd dig until I found the proof, and then they'd see who wasn't CEO material. The next morning, I met Lena at a cramped coffee shop, the smell of espresso grounding me as I clutched the cryptic note. She slid into the booth, her laptop already open, eyes sharp with purpose. "Ruby, it's worse than you think," she whispered, pushing a stack of printouts toward me. My fingers brushed the pages, heart pounding as I scanned the first, a board resolution, identical to the one I'd found, but with metadata showing it was edited last month, after my personal crisis. They forged it, Lena said, tapping a signature. Claire pushed this through while you were grieving. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. The signatures, Mom's, Uncle Dan's, even the board's secretary, were digital copies, not originals. Lena pulled up an email chain next, her fingers flying across the keys. Look here, she said, pointing to a thread between Claire and a board member. They planned to oust you during your leave. They used your absence to fake the vote. My hands shook, crumpling the edge of a page. I saw Claire's smirk from the dinner, Mom's averted eyes, Uncle Dan's grunt of approval. They'd played me, exploiting my pain. I leaned forward, voice low. How do we prove this? Lena's eyes met mine, steady. I kept backups of the original filings. They're clean. No vote, no signatures. We can expose them. My chest tightened, not with fear but with clarity. I didn't want revenge, not yet. I wanted truth. Send me everything, I said, my fingers drumming the table, a rhythm of resolve. Lena nodded, already zipping files. As we parted, I gripped the printouts, their weight like armor. Back home, I'd confront the board, not with screams but with facts. Claire thought she'd won, but I was done being invisible. This proof? It was my voice, and I'd make them hear it. I left the coffee shop, the printouts tucked in my bag, and headed to Lena's apartment, a cozy space filled with plants and the warm smell of fresh bread. She'd invited me to meet her close-knit team, former Monroe coders who'd left when Claire's influence grew toxic. They greeted me with hugs, their smiles genuine, a stark contrast to the cold glares at Mom's dinner table. Lena poured coffee, her hand steady, and said, "Ruby, you're not alone. We've got your back." My throat tightened, not from pain but from the unfamiliar warmth of being seen. We sat in a circle, papers spread on the table, as Lena's friend Marco, a wiry coder with a quick grin, pointed to the forged resolution. "This is sloppy work," he said, tracing the metadata. "We can present this to Apex, show them the board's fraud." Sarah, another ex-colleague, nodded, her glasses slipping as she leaned in. "You built Monroe's soul, Ruby. They can't take that." Their words hit deep, like a lifeline pulling me from the wreckage of Claire's betrayal. I fidgeted with my mug, its warmth seeping into my palms. These weren't my blood family, but they were my chosen one, people who valued my code, my grit, my vision. Unlike Mom's averted eyes or Claire's smirks, their belief in me was solid, unshakable. "What's the plan?" I asked, voice steady now. Lena grinned, sliding a USB drive toward me. "We leak the originals to Apex's legal team anonymously, let Claire explain herself." As we brainstormed, laughter mixed with strategy, the room alive with purpose. I felt my spark reignite, brighter than ever. These allies, not my family, were my foundation. With them I'd expose the truth, not to destroy but to rebuild stronger on my terms. The next morning, I stood outside Monroe Systems' boardroom, the USB drive heavy in my pocket, Lena's files my weapon. My pulse thrummed as I pushed the glass door open. The familiar coffee and ambition scent now laced with tension. Claire sat at the head, her posture regal, while Mom and Uncle Dan flanked her, their faces stiff. The board members shifted, papers rustling as I walked in unannounced. Claire's eyes narrowed, her pen freezing mid-tap. "Ruby, this is a closed meeting," she said, voice clipped. I set the USB on the table, its soft clink echoing. "Not anymore," I said, my voice calm but firm, like steel wrapped in velvet. "You forged the vote to oust me. I have proof." Gasps rippled through the room. Mom's bracelet jingled as she fidgeted, Uncle Dan's jaw tightened. I slid printouts of the original filings across the table, their clean pages glaring against the forged ones. "These show no vote ever happened." "You lied." Claire's face paled, but she leaned forward defiant. "You're desperate, Ruby. This is pathetic." I held her gaze, unflinching. "Apex's legal team has these files, they know." The room froze, board members exchanging wide-eyed glances. Mom whispered, "Ruby, please," but I raised a hand. "No, you don't get to beg now. You betrayed me, used my grief to steal what I built." I stepped back, hands steady. "I'm done with your games. From now on I choose who I work with, people who value truth." Claire's lips parted, but no words came. I turned, leaving the printouts behind, my heels clicking a final goodbye. Outside, the city air felt cleaner, my boundaries set. They could keep their boardroom. I was building something new. The sun was setting over Chicago, casting an orange glow through the windows of Lena's loft, where I sat with her team, my new partners. Papers and laptops cluttered the table, but the air buzzed with purpose, not betrayal. I just signed a contract to launch a new venture, SparkVibe, a tech firm built on my original AI logistics code, now free from Monroe's shadow. My fingers traced the pen's smooth barrel, still warm from signing, as Lena grinned. "You're back, Ruby," she said, her voice like a high five. I leaned back, my shoulders lighter than they'd been in months. This wasn't just a company, it was my chance to redefine the Monroe name on my terms. We brainstormed our first client pitch, my voice steady as I sketched ideas on a whiteboard, marker squeaking. Marco tossed in a suggestion about blockchain integration, and Sarah nodded, her glasses glinting with excitement. These were my people, honest, driven, no hidden agendas. I thought of Claire's smug face, Mom's averted eyes, the boardroom's cold silence. They'd tried to erase me, but here I was, building again. SparkVibe wasn't just about profit, it was about impact. Streamlining supply chains for small businesses, not just corporate giants. I'd already reached out to a local co-op, offering pro bono work to get them started. Their grateful email, pinned to my corkboard, felt like a badge of honor. As we wrapped up, I caught my reflection in the window. Tired eyes but a determined jaw. I wasn't just reclaiming my work, I was reclaiming myself. The Monroe name would mean innovation, integrity, not betrayal. I hugged Lena, her warmth a reminder of what true partnership felt like. This was my legacy now, and I'd make it shine. I sat on my apartment balcony, the Chicago skyline twinkling below, a cup of chamomile tea cooling in my hands. The city's hum felt distant, like background noise to the quiet I'd found inside. SparkVibe's launch was weeks away, but tonight, I wasn't thinking about pitches or code. I was reflecting on me, Ruby, the woman who'd built something from nothing, lost it, and built again. My fingers traced the mug's rim, grounding me as I let the truth settle. My worth didn't live in Claire's approval, Mom's praise, or a CEO title. It lived in me. I thought back to the boardroom, Claire's smirk, the forged papers. That pain had been a fire, burning away my need for their validation. I'd spent years chasing their nods, measuring myself by their yardstick. But now, I saw the girl who coded through tears, who turned grief into grit, who chose integrity over revenge. Lena's team, my chosen family, had shown me what loyalty looked like. Their belief, their hugs, their shared laughter, that was my mirror now. I set the mug down, its soft clink final, like closing a book. SparkVibe wasn't just a company, it was proof I was enough. I'd build it bigger, better, not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. The stars above felt closer, like they were cheering. I smiled, my chest light, my spark now a steady flame. I was free, not from them but for me. Have you ever had to rebuild after a betrayal? It's raw, isn't it? Standing in your truth, choosing your own path, that's the real win. So what do you think? Did I rise high enough, or could I have pushed harder? Drop a comment below with your thoughts, your stories, your sparks, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Keep shining, because your worth, it's in you, not them.